If you have not become a patron of the Geocache Talk Network, what are you waiting for? Patron levels start as low as a Bison Tube level at $3 a month. To sign up is easy. Simply go to the Geocache Talk website and click on the Become a Patron button, or go to patreon.com/Geocache Talk. Patrons now get the famous Blackout coin, invites to special events, and other really great items throughout the year. Become a patron today.
And sponsored by SmashingPennies.net. Get 10% off your order with code Geocache Talk Network. They are perfect to put in a geocache.
Logwork, the creators of the fantastic logbook, made with genuine write-in-the-rain paper. The logbook's designed for the micro-containers of the present and future, geared towards the hider who'd rather go caching than doing cache maintenance. Find them at logwork.com. That's LOGWERK.com.
Have you subscribed to FTF Magazine yet? FTF Magazine is the #1 geocaching magazine available. It is a quarterly magazine that you can be part of. Submit your geocaching milestones and adventures to be published. FTF Magazine is also interactive with puzzles to solve and the hunt to find Spartacus. If you can solve the puzzle or find Spartacus, then you will be entered in to win a special pack tag. Every new subscription, you will receive a special swag pack. Subscribing is easy. Just visit FTF's website, ftfgeo.com. Don't miss out and subscribe today.
Welcome to Challenge Talk, part of the Geocache Talk Network. You can watch the show live on the first Sunday of each month. For now, we'll get to that later. Feel free to jump over to YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter to watch the broadcast live and join the wonderful and active chat room, or listen to the entire show later on your favorite podcast player.
In this episode, we're going to talk... Oh, wait a minute. I said we're going to talk creating challenges with MonkeyBrad. Maybe that's not the best thing. We'll talk about creating a little bit, but I think maybe conversation with MonkeyBrad might be better.
Sounds good. We also have prizes to give away each show to our listeners. Between each show, be sure to email your challenge cache finds to challengetalkpodcast@gmail.com, and you could be a winner.
Later on in the show, we'll also play our special game exclusively for our live audience, the Wheel of Challenges. So listen live, get your email app ready, and follow instructions when the time comes so you can have a chance at winning tonight's grand prize.
And at the end of the show, we'll highlight some of the challenge caches you found, and someone will win our coveted monthly giveaway. So hello, Tim. How are you doing?
Great. It's been a very good month.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
What have you been up to?
Well, I had to go to a wedding, and it was for my son's best friend, and I got the best treat of all. I got to babysit my grandkid overnight.
Yay.
Oh, I was so happy with that. And
Very
I
good.
learned that the venue for the wedding was within 2 miles of the Wayne County Century Challenge and the Wayne County Historical Challenge, which both of them I've qualified for, but didn't find the actual cache. So I got to the wedding a little bit early and have to admit that I snuck out and went and grabbed a couple caches while I was downtown. And then I had the most epic adventure. Just a couple weeks ago, we went to the Falls of Ohio, which is the Ohio River where Indiana and Kentucky come together in Louisville. And the dam is closed, and you can actually walk out on Goose Island, which is the most amazing historical fossilized environment. We got 20 earth caches,
Wow.
10 regular caches, and the earth caches are like find a piece of horned coral, which throw a stone and you'll see it. And so it was simply an amazing day. We had a great weekend. Our team Rockford, M. Kettle, Fly Guys Gal, just a friend from work, and I had a beautiful weekend. And
Fabulous.
you had some fun too.
I had some fun too. I just got home at 2 a.m. from an amazing 10-day road trip, geocaching road trip with my mom's Steelers chick. And we just road tripped all throughout New England, New York, Pennsylvania, DC, and we were able to get 7 states' oldest caches, 6 webcams, 3 Adventure Lab geo arts. We found 15-year 2000 and 2001 caches. And with some of those finds, we were both able to complete our double Jasmer along the trip. So that was pretty epic and pretty fun. And also, while doing Massachusetts first geocache, we were able to meet up with Curious KDB for that hike. And then also in the theme of the trip, we were able to find her Jasmer Challenge cache with her. So just a lot of really good geocaching adventures. And I'm a little tired, but I'm okay. I'm here for it tonight.
Oh, there you go. Well, and welcome to the east side of the country. So
it was kind of fun to be in the east side of the country. I got to watch Sunday Night Football at a very late hour. I'm not used to that anymore, but it was good. It was good.
Very good.
Yeah.
So in the news tonight, we got a couple of things. Number one, the Wheel of Challenges, the HQ Wheel of Challenges, that ends next week.
That's very soon.
Very soon. And this is the last of the challenges for the Wheel of Challenges. So hopefully everyone has gone out and scored their points, or if not, you need to get there. Get going with that. Who knows what the next adventure will be.
Right. And when they'll release it, we'll stay tuned and we'll talk about it here when it happens.
Okay. And I don't know if anybody pays attention to our intro. I certainly hope they do. But we have some new sponsors.
Yeah. So we have, if you noticed, we have Logworks and smashingpennies.net. So check those out. And we heard about Smashing Pennies on a recent show. And I was on the road when I listened to the show, so I haven't had a chance to check it out yet, but I plan on doing that.
Yeah, I took a quick look this evening, and it is what you think it is. Smashing pennies. They take pennies and they flatten them out and make those little souvenir things. So
very good. I presume in a geocaching theme.
They can be. Yes, they can be. They can be a lot of different themes. So if you have an idea that you want to make something up, you can do that.
Great.
So, and probably the most important news that we've left to last is the big change.
Right.
Which I know has been announced, but they may not have heard it here. Right?
Right. So just so everyone knows, Challenge Talk is moving from Sundays once a month to the second Tuesday of each month. So we're still a once a month show, but we're going to be on Tuesdays as we're making the change for the regular Sunday show to be Geocache Talk themed. So still check us out. Same everything other than the date, the day of the week that we're going to be on.
Yep. The second Tuesday, because the first Tuesday of the month, we want everybody to listen to Electric Water Boy, and his name just escaped me.
Charles.
Charles. Well, I know it's Charles, but Charles goes by what? What's his geocaching name? And
oh, you're making me lose it too. All right, Charles.
I know. There we go. I didn't want to say Charles on the air, but Charles and Tom and Puzzle Talk on the first Tuesday of the month, and then we're on the second Tuesday of the month. So I'm going to quickly go through our stat update because I want to get to our guest as quickly as possible.
Me too. We've got someone in the green room waiting.
I know. So this month we went up another 217 challenges worldwide. And I think the biggest news is that the United States has now gone over 16,000 challenges. So if you need a challenge, you can find it here. Pathfinder 33, that's his name. Charles is Pathfinder 33.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Tom, the co-host.
Yep. Jay and LA came in with it first, but Tom.
Okay, gotcha.
Tom brought it in there too. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So let's bring in our guest.
All right.
There he is.
Welcome. Welcome, MonkeyBrad.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. So, we've met and we've talked, but there might be someone in the audience that has never heard of you and doesn't know who you are. So for that one or two persons that are out there, could you tell us about yourself, please?
A little about me. As geocaching, I am MonkeyBrad. Started geocaching in 2003, April Fool's Day. So I've been doing this for a little bit over 20 years.
Yeah, amazing.
I had great fortune. I've been able to travel around quite a bit. And in 2009, I was asked to come on board as a volunteer reviewer for geocaching.com. And I reviewed for Tennessee for 14 years now. I reviewed in Massachusetts for quite a while, and I still like fill in around if anybody needs any help anywhere.
All right.
Great.
Cool. And we're all about challenges here on this show. And how do you feel about challenges as a reviewer?
As a reviewer,
Yeah.
Interesting. As a reviewer, I hate them.
Wait! We're not supposed to say that.
Well, I know,
Okay.
and and obviously, I'm not speaking for geocaching.com. This is purely my opinion. As a reviewer, it's my least favorite type of cache to review.
Okay.
But as a player, I love them and have traveled all over
So
the
we'll
world.
talk about
doing
both
challenges.
of those things.
Fair
What do you
enough.
like about challenge caches as a player?
As a player and as a reviewer, honestly, what I love about geocaching challenges is the way it challenges the community to get out and do something. There are so many caches, so many things that it never occurred to me to find every county in my state until that became a challenge. And it never occurred to me to fill out my Jasmer till I found out that there was a Jasmer challenge. I wouldn't have done my Fizzy if there weren't a cache that I could find after I found the Fizzy challenge. So it has really informed a lot of my geocaching travels. And I have now become one of those guys who tries to find as many counties as possible whenever I travel. And I absolutely adore, particularly as you get farther in the game and you found several things and you begin have to branch out a little bit more. It keeps the game interesting and new. It gives me new reasons to keep geocaching. It gives me, I can look at a thing and go like, okay, you know what? Yeah, I need to fill my Jasmer again, and I can do it on this trip. I've done it 3 times now, and at some point I'll be gone to Sweden purely because there is a challenge that that it's the Jasmer challenge, and you can only do 4. So I've got 3. I got to have the last one.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing with any kind of thing that when I get out there, when I look at my Fizzy grid, I'm like, oh, hey, there's this one I can jump. It's only an extra 2 hours on the trip.
Exactly.
But I can pick that up and I can do another ring on my Fizzy. So yeah, that's a jump for myself only, but the way that it will take people and have them step outside of their comfort zones. And maybe it never occurred to you to do a scuba cache till you saw a scuba challenge. There's different kinds of things. I'm just any wild example there, but there may be this one challenge that pops up and you look at that and you go like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Oh, now I've got to go do that thing. And anything that gets people out doing more geocaching, I am for.
Cool.
Unless I have to review it. And
I understand. We'll go into that in a minute. But I'm going to come back to, you got 3 loops on your Jasmer.
Yes, sir.
You need a 4th one. Do you need to go to Sweden yet, or have you been there?
It's Sweden. I need the Matchbox.
Okay.
Sweden.
All right. Thinking about that next year. So maybe I'll send you a note and we'll see if we can put something together.
Sounds good.
Very
So,
Yep, it's in my
from
future.
So from a reviewer perspective, then, why do you hate them?
Well, let me be clear up front. Let me say something about being a reviewer, because a lot of times this sort of gets lost. Like I made a quick comment, that I'm a disclaimer, but I'm speaking for me. I'm not speaking for geocaching.com. They're probably all sitting there going, oh my goodness, what's he going to say next? These are my opinions as a fellow human, as a fellow geocacher, that we serve as volunteers and we are just here because we love the game and we want to be able to help out. We want there to be more geocaches in the world. So I want to be able to publish as many things as possible because I want more things for me to hunt. But, I'm also, in being human, I have opinions about things. And that's one of the things that is, kind of challenging sometimes, is to keep that level of impartiality, that just because I don't think I would like this cache, that doesn't mean that cache shouldn't be in the world. Mm-hmm. As long as that cache meets the guidelines, then that cache should be in the world. So you're going to try to keep your personal stuff out of it. When it comes to challenges, my template, whenever I go out and I say, oh, here's the thing we need to talk about about your challenge cache, is reviewing challenge caches is challenging.
Okay.
But there's a little bit more subjectivity in it. So if you place a cache and it is 520 feet away from another cache, then that puts up a big red flag. And it needs to be 528, move it 7 feet. These things, those are easy things. There are lots of guidelines that are very clear. The challenge guidelines are a little more open to interpretation sometimes.
Right.
And they change. And that's a thing that is very important. The guidelines change over time. I started playing in 2003. The guidelines were very different then than they are now. There are all kinds of things that were not permissible then that are permissible now. There are things that were permissible then that were not. There are things that have been permissible and are no longer in between. I mean, things change. And like anything else, I got really excited when I first started caching, and I learned the guidelines backwards and forwards. And 3 or 4 years later, like, they made some changes, and I learned were the ones that affected me. And another couple of years, I'm like, oh, what do you mean they can't do that? We've been able to do that forever. I'm like, oh, you mean there was another change? So as a reviewer, I end up reading the guidelines way more than the average cacher because I am double checking them all the time to make sure that the information that I'm giving to our fellow cachers is up to date and current and not something that's stuck in my head from 2013. And a lot of the challenge guidelines, we had the moratorium, 2016-ish, and we had huge changes after that. And there were lots of things that were permissible before that are not permissible afterwards. So we have a lot of caches that are grandfathered in.
Correct.
And somebody will send one in and I'll put it back like, here's why you can't do that. Like, you see this help center article. And they'll say, but there's one like this in Alabama. And there's one like this in Alaska. I'm just picking on A states. There's one like that in Arizona. Sure. I'm not picking on any of my fellow reviewers or any of my fellow states. Those are just what came to mind. But that's always, you always hate to see that whenever you tell someone, no, we can't do this because of this. And they're like, but it happens over there. Like, well, those were grandfathered in, and like, well, if it's such a problem, why, if it was such a problem, why wasn't that archived? That cache needs to be archived then. I get it. I get the frustration. And that is one of the things that is frustrating for me as a reviewer, because you see more and more often people, when they get frustrated in that way, it's because I'm not communicating well, that I haven't explained things properly. And I hate for that to happen. And I hate that, sometimes that conversation just ends there. And they don't ask the next question, like, why was it this way? They just go, that jerk wouldn't publish my cache. Even just like it 100 miles from here. I did 3 of these like this on my last trip. And they don't always see that, those are under different guidelines. And as we always say, there's no precedence in here because our guidelines are always evolving.
Right.
And I think over time, they have gotten much, much better. But that does lead to a little bit of friction. And like, I hate that sometimes that sort of gets lost, that I didn't say no because I don't like your challenge. I said no because I have a very set of guidelines that I have to go by. And unfortunately, I know more about them than your average cacher does because I have to be in there. I like it.
Well, yeah, you are the judge, the adjudicator of the information. And like you said, if a cache is placed at 525 feet, it doesn't meet the guideline, and you can take a ruler and you can see that. And I know I got into with a reviewer over 526 feet versus 528 feet for an underwater cache. And I said, do you know how far it is to swim 528 feet? And he said, yes, but this is the guideline. And I said, you're right. And I moved my cache.
Well, and I appreciate that what you're doing there, because one of the things, like, to me, I try to be a fairly reasonable human being. And when I see that, I'm like, it's 2 feet. I mean, the drift on the GPS, that's not even a real thing.
Right.
But I will tell you, from doing reviewer Q&As and talking to people literally on 4 continents in person about these things, and the one complaint that I hear most about geocachers and reviewer interactions around the world is that we're not consistent.
Right.
And the crazy thing is like, when we're consistent and we say, I'm sorry, bud, it's the rule's 528, it's 526. I know you're going to need to move it 2 feet. And it seems silly, but that's how you get consistency, by holding those lines and by saying, here's the rule. And that's what we're going to stick with. Because if I say, it's 526 feet, it's a water cache, like, I get it, that's fine. Then the next guy's like, you did his at 526. All I need is 520. It's 8 feet. It's within the realm of distance. So that is one of the more frustrating parts, honestly, is to be able, not to be able to feel like I'm forced sometimes to say no to things and to take an opinion that I know is nitpicky and ridiculous on some level. However, ultimately, we are a game of guidelines, and like, we're a nation of laws. Either the laws matter or they don't. The guidelines matter or they don't. And if you want consistency from the reviewer corps, then we all need to be doing the same thing. And if some of us are saying, that 2 feet's fine, and others aren't, then that's where we get that perception of inconsistency. And you brought up a nice point earlier that I was telling you said we're a judge, and that really is a lot of how, particularly with challenge caches. So a judge or a lawyer, the law.
Yep.
You can look at things and like, okay, I can read the law and the law says this. But the reason that you hire a lawyer and the reason that you have a judge looking things over is that the judge knows not just that law, but how it's been interpreted in the past. So think about everything that goes to the Supreme Court. It's all about interpretations of existing laws. One of the things that we do have access to from the reviewer side, and they're always like bringing us up to date and giving us new information. A lot of times, like let's say that you have one of those, let's say we have a challenge on a review, on a challenge cache review. And HQ decides either they are going to allow that to be published or they're not.
So let's step back for a second then. So this is a challenge that, in my opinion, meets the guidelines.
Yes.
And in your opinion, it does not. And I challenge you on that and send it up to HQ and ask for it's an appeal of your decision.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, as a reviewer, we welcome that. Excuse me. A lot of people get uptight and like, I don't want to go against the reviewer. I often will tell people, go ahead, let's appeal this. Like, I am saying no on this because of where the guidelines say. Feel free to appeal it. It doesn't hurt my feelings if you appeal it. Mm-hmm. There are many times where I will see a thing, I'm like, that seems reasonable to me. But it's not my job to change guidelines. It's not my job really to interpret guidelines, except in a very narrow frame. There are people at HQ who get paid every day to look at these edge cases and decide if, that is a better interpretation of the guideline. And sometimes the guidelines change based on that. And so I'll often send one up and say, I don't have the authority to make that change, but ask them and let's get them to weigh in on it. Because either they're going to say it's good or they're going to say that I was correct in my original decision. But that is the key. Like when they do those sort of appeals, they often will shoot out an email to us or make sure that we are aware that we have now interpreted this guideline to mean this. This is a slight change, but you need to be aware. And those are the kind of things that, they don't go back and rewrite the guidelines, the public-facing guidelines, every time. There's a slight reinterpretation in the same way that after the Supreme Court decides something, it doesn't go back to Congress so they can write a bunch of new laws that say that. We just say, this is how we interpret that law now.
Now, so this is a hypothetical thing where you and I are in this discussion over this cache that I want to place. And HQ has said, yes, we agree with you as the cache owner. We feel that you can place this. So they're going to write up their reasoning for it. They send it to you or they send it out to all of the reviewers?
Different things happen at different times. Generally, if there is an appeal where I'm directly involved, of course, they will let me know what their interpretation was because it's going to come back to me for me to publish the cache generally.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
But then if it is, if it's something that changes the way we've interpreted things in the past or something, that's just like we get newsletters. We have different ways we communicate with each other. We ask each other's opinions all the time. We ask our team at HQ to back us up and let us know where we should go with things. So that is often, if there's something that changes, this makes a significant change, they'll just shoot that out to everybody or they'll discuss it in one of our meetings to make sure that we're all aware that this is how we're approaching this going forward.
Okay.
Think about that. We have got literally hundreds of other reviewers around the world, and they're managing a team of volunteers. So I do this in my time.
Right.
I don't punch a clock. No one else does either worldwide. So finding times when they can get everyone together and can get everything out, it is certainly a challenge for them to disseminate that information, even amongst us, where we all want to know. Mm-hmm. Think about that for yourselves. Think about how many times you get an email from your head office and it runs down here like 15 things and you look at it and you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, gotcha. And it goes in and out. I absolutely miss out on the nuance of things sometimes. I will, I'm scrolling through my phone and I accidentally delete the email. I never saw that email existed. And then when I'm reviewing something later on, I'll go look and I'm like, oh, that one's fine. And I'll publish it. And within moments, a fellow geocacher somewhere will say, that's against the new guidelines. I'm like, well, what, where? And then we have to go back and fix that or not fix that, depending on the case. And everything's on a case-by-case basis. One of the wonderful things about being a reviewer and having this great team that supports us from HQ and having this great community of reviewers who all support each other. And we ask each other questions on a regular basis and ignore each other sometimes on that same basis. But we're all in it for friends. But the whole point is that we're all trying to get toward the same thing. We're all aiming for consistency, and we all want there to be more geocaches in the world and more interesting geocaches in the world. So if there is an interesting challenge, we want to do it. It is not unusual at all for a really cool challenge to pop up or something that causes a lot of discussion, and that we'll just like text or email each other and go, hey, look what's in my queue right now. Look what I'm working on. I'm like, wow, I've never seen that. Like, what are you going to do with that? He's like, I hope you do. But it spurs conversation amongst us, and we figure out, and I haven't stolen anybody's challenge ideas yet, but boy, I've been sorely tempted whenever I see one. Oh, that's really good. I want that. A little piece of that.
Well, we're now keeping a list of really cool challenges. So when you run across one or two, go ahead and email me and let me know what they are.
I wish I could.
We love them.
Yeah. And Lori, Seebeck Tribe did ask that. Do you reach out to reviewers for their opinions?
Oh, absolutely. All the time. And like anything else, like imagine us as we're a global work group. And there are reviewers that I have not met in person or online, but I've met a bunch of folks. We all try to get together whenever we're in the same areas, and we meet online very regularly. So it's always nice to get a fresh perspective on things, and it is very easy to get very kind of locked into like, this is how I do things. And I love whenever I'm talking to somebody else and they talk about like the way they do something. Like, what do you mean?
That could work for me.
Like this for a decade.
Yeah. And I heard you say, and I absolutely hear this consistently from various reviewers at various points in time. You guys want to publish caches. You want the community to have more and to do more and more fun. Whatever words you want to put to it, that is the goal of reviewers.
Well, and I'm lazy.
Stop people.
So there's that.
Yeah, it's easy to hit that publish button.
It absolutely is, and that's a real point. That, and one of the things about challenges, because challenges, I know I'm going to have to go like dig in and do a little extra reading and make sure I get it right. That one of the things you can do when you're submitting caches, like when you go there, they'll use those reviewer notes. And as much as I appreciate people telling me like, hey, you're doing a great job, have a nice day, I love that. What I really love is this cache is placed in Murray County Park with permission of this director. It's this kind of container. It's hidden in this way. So we have all that's there. Getting all of that sort of information around it. So when I look at it, I can go, okay, I see on the map which park it's in. I know what their policy is. I know the name of the director. When I look down at the bottom, I'm like, okay, we've got all that stuff. And here's the contact info of the director. Here's a copy of the permit that they gave them. Then I don't have to go, guys, actually that park has a permit policy and you need to do this, this, and this. I can just hit one button rather than sending it back, writing out a response, even if it's copy paste. And I use a ton of copy paste stuff because I review a lot of caches.
I can only imagine. I've imagined what your job looks like. So yeah, that's one of the things.
Well, and I've imagined it many times and gotten it wrong in talking to my reviewer up here, the local reviewer. I'm sure you know Alanite and Ken. And we think he's fabulous. In fact, all the Michigan reviewers are fabulous. But, in talking to him at one point about the workload, it's like, I can't imagine. It's a full-time job and you make so much. I mean, headquarters could double your pay and it still wouldn't be enough.
What would I do with 2 t-shirts a year? That's not true. They take very good care of us. But we don't get paid. We do get t-shirts. We get gifts at Christmas, that sort of thing. But what they really do is they give us support. And that's what really matters, because there is not a reviewer out there who didn't come to that job because they love the game. I mean, that is, we love the game as players and got into a position where this is an opportunity to give back. And if it weren't for giving back to the community, I absolutely would not be doing this, because it does take a significant amount of time. Yeah. It takes a significant amount of thought. And there are a surprising number of headaches because, and I understand it, and this is going to sound absolutely wrong. So everybody get ready. You can put this on Reddit. You can get in the forums and go like, oh my goodness. Because Brad just said, as a volunteer reviewer, his own opinion, not that of GC.com, he said, hey guys, I don't care about your cash. I don't. No, it's not personal to me.
Correct.
Right.
To me,
Right.
it
Can't
is
be
a
personal.
series of check boxes. I'm looking like this does this, this is good, this is good. Sometimes I read it and I go, you know what? This looks like fun. I'll put it on my list. I'm going to go hunt this cache whenever it publishes, and whenever next time I'm in that area. But it's not personal to me. Now, when I hide a cache, and I don't publish my own caches anymore, like, you know, one of my fellow reviewers is going to do that. And when I hide the cache and I get a note back from a friend who says, hey, are you sure about this? Like, well, of course I'm sure. Why wouldn't you submit it if I weren't sure? Why are you picking on my baby? Because this cache is very personal and important to me, and I don't know why you would question things. That's really not how things work. The way it works is we look at things. It really is. We are really trying to call balls and strikes. And either it meets the guidelines and we publish it, or it doesn't meet the guidelines and we send it back to you, but we send it back to you for more work. It's very, very, very rare that I send one back and go like, look, this is never going to work. And I have had it. Absolutely, I had it happen. There are locations that the federal government is never giving you permission to place a cache there. I know you don't have it now. You're not going to get it. Let's just stop with this. But generally, if there is any hope at all, when I send it back, I'm sending back with suggestions. And I know that sometimes it's not read that way because it comes back as you said no to me. And it's read in a negative voice when it's spoken in a voice that is caring, that's encouraging and trying to be educational. But I know that also sometimes comes off as didactic and high-handed. We do our best, absolutely across the line. But when I send one back, I want you to answer me, like, let me know who is the contact person who gave permission for that to be there. I often will say, in the past, there have been caches in the area who have caused problems. They've been archived in the same location. So before we publish something here, I need to know that management's okay with this one. Because every time that a cache is archived because of an issue, I feel on some level personally responsible for that. One that I publish, obviously. And I feel like somewhere along the way, I failed because I didn't ask the right questions. I didn't get things right. Because if I had done everything right, then the cache would not have been a problem. Now, I also, as a player and a reviewer, know that's absolutely not true. As a player, I have hidden caches that had absolute permission. And the owner of the restaurant who asked me to place a cache near their place didn't communicate that to the second shift manager.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how well documented it was, but there's no big secret. I had a cache that I was working on as part of a geotour that I was helping put together for the State Department of Tourism that we had the bomb squad called out on the day that it was placed.
Oh my.
Shut down traffic and all those things. It had absolute permission. We had written permission from the owner. He had told the first shift manager and all the employees there that this thing's coming in. That had never gotten a second shift. So we dropped off the cache. I had just placed the cache. I spoke to one of the waitresses who was there and said, hey, we're dropping this off. I won't mention the names, but the owner of
Yep.
It'll be right here. And she went inside and mentioned it to the manager, and the manager said, I don't know what he's talking about. What are you talking about? And they walked outside and saw that there was this ammo can painted with like the geotour logos and all these things. The geocache, please do not remove. All of that stuff was there. And she said, I don't know what that is, and I am not comfortable with that, and called the police. Half hour later, the bomb squad rolled. They closed down the road. It was a big deal. They had real legal ramifications that came from that.
Wow.
Oh, absolutely.
Quite a bit. But that was a cache that was placed with absolute permission. Not everybody got the memo. And that is going to happen out in the world. So, the big thing is like, do your best. Make sure, for the sake of your fellow geocaches, protect yourself because there are actual legal liabilities that can happen sometimes. But for your fellow geocachers, so when I pull up the next day to find that thing and I'm standing there with this metal box and somebody comes out like, what are you doing here? Like, I'm here playing a game. You're supposed to know about it. Make sure you get those permissions. I get the thing often here also. I've just processed one like that, which had a fairly lengthy argument with a fellow geocacher about public property. And I can't speak for every state, and I know certainly in other countries there are different things, but in Tennessee, there is no public property. None. Nothing is owned by the public. There is state property, there's county property, there's city property, there's private property, but every piece of land anywhere in this state has got a land manager, someone who is responsible for the activities that take place there. And if you're going to hide a cache there, you need to make sure they know about it. It's just a common courtesy thing, is to make sure that they are aware that we're playing on their field. And most people are really cool with it. They're happy to have us out there. But, you know, if people ask, like, even guardrails, say even guardrails. County road departments will sign off on things that will bring people to their town. But you got to ask.
Right.
And you've got to come with documentation and show them, like, here, this is a positive thing. These are good people who are coming in here to enjoy your area and to enjoy playing this game. And most communities are really happy to have us here, but they want to know. In the same way, like, you would never dream of, like, if someone hit a cache in your front yard and didn't ask you, how would you feel if people started showing up in your front yard?
Exactly.
Ask yourself
Oh,
that.
sure.
Cache that you hide. What does this look like to someone who doesn't play the game? I often encourage people, like, you know, if you've got a cache hidden at your house, let your neighbors know.
Right.
So
Oh,
when they start seeing
absolutely.
people,
And I think we've all done that. And I've had a couple of times when as a seeker, I've gone to a place and I've had that where people have said, why are you here? What are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm playing a game and this is the game. And well, I didn't know that was here. And I don't want that here. That's not supposed to be here. And it's the property owner. And you go, well, didn't the cache owner get permission? No, they didn't talk to me. Well, how did it get by the reviewer in that case? And, you know, things happen. And
that's a good thing you bring up, because I get asked this a lot when we're doing Q&As and things. How did it get by the reviewer? And that's a very valid question. And I'll tell you, it's an easy one. A lot of times it didn't. A lot of times I asked about it, or that we asked about it, and we were told, yes, we got in, here's the name and here's the phone number and all that. And oftentimes it has happened where, yes, and they did get permission, but they got permission from the kid who lives there, not the parent.
Right.
Imagine how things happen. And other times, I want to remind everyone that when you submit a cache, you know, we all just like click those little check boxes on everything. And when you click the checkbox to submit the cache, you click to a thing that says, I have received adequate permission for this geocache placement. And I know you go way back in the day, they're like, you know, if you can throw a Frisbee there, you can hide a cache there. Like, no, you can't, because you take your Frisbee with you and other people don't come find your Frisbee. That it is important in our relationship with land managers that we protect the sport. And that's what it really comes down to. Like, all of these guidelines comes down to helping protect the sport so it can grow. And
Positive image.
You endanger the game by not respecting landowners' permission, their property, and their rights.
Right. Well, and I've usually explained that, you know, this is a game. This is what's supposed to happen. I understand. I'm going to report this on your behalf because we do want to have, you know, a positive relationship. And one was down in Florida, and I didn't know the CO, but I reported to the reviewer to said, you know, this is the park, this is where it's at. I don't know the CO. Can you? And she got back to me right away and said, oh yeah, we'll take care of that right away. And it was an area where it was a part of the park that was closed off. They knew about geocaching, didn't know there was a geocache in that particular area. And they had a problem with snakes. Poisonous snakes.
Yep.
And my wife looked at me and she goes, why were we there? And I'm like, because I didn't know. And they asked us why we were back there. Didn't we read the sign? And we said, what sign? And then they pulled the sign out of their little cart that said, oh, the one we had in the paint shop getting repainted. That says, don't go here. I mean, we had a laugh and it was all good and all fun. But by the same token, I knew they didn't want it there any longer. And so I could report it in.
Well, it often is like that. It's like a comedy of errors. Yeah. And in that case, it's very possible that a prior ranger, I mean, think about it. We've got caches in the wild that were hidden 20 plus years ago.
Yep.
That I have personal caches hidden that I recently archived one because I realized that the person I got permission from had passed away like 5 years ago. And the property has changed hands. It just didn't occur to me. I knew that he had passed, but I wasn't connecting that with the fact that I had a geocache that was on a piece of property that he had. Yeah. And I didn't have malice. It wasn't something that was intentional, but I was still sending people onto a piece of property that the new owners had no idea. And rather than going and meeting the new owners, I'm like, let me just archive this and I'll go in one more time and pick it up and take it out. It had a good life. But those are the sort of things that happen. And we have to look at that. It's, as cache owners, we also should probably take a look at our hides and inventory and go like, what has changed since I dropped this cash off 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago? There are things out there that's a real consideration. And we as reviewers, I view myself, and before I ever start reviewing, sort of as a steward of the game. It's important for us to help protect the game. And as players, we have to view ourselves as stewards of the game and do our best to make sure that we help promote geocaching in a positive light. And it's not that hard to do. It really isn't. Most people are excited about this thing, or they think it's silly, and that's fine too.
Well, right, and either one. So Tom asked a great question, and let's throw this one up. So if my container has changed over X months or so many years, or the permission has changed, like you said, it's a new owner. You've gone and talked to the new owners, and they're okay with it. Should we send it in to the reviewer, or is that something you need to know about, you want to know about, or just make a note and move on?
Well, I'm going to say that is going to be a reviewer by reviewer question, because I'll tell you, like, a good example, when I was reviewing in Massachusetts, after the Boston Marathon bombing, we had a total change of policy. And when you submitted your cache, there were 3 questions. I asked, who's the land manager that gave permission with contact info? How is the geocache hidden? And what's the container? Because the lead reviewer up there, Mad Men, that she would regularly have law enforcement contact her and say, we have found this thing. Is this a geocache? And she would go immediately look in there, and she could pull up every cache and then go look in her notes and go like, this should be a clear Tupperware container, 6x6, like some description at these coordinates hidden in this style. So when the officer says, okay, this is a metal box 300 feet from there, we know that's not a geocache.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Or they know it is a geocache, and then they can just go like, okay, we don't need the bomb squad. In those cases, yeah, she absolutely needs to know if something has changed. Make a note on the cache page that it's there. So we have notes on the cache pages, and we look at the cache pages so as a place to keep information, because I will process thousands of caches this year. Over the last 14 years, just do that math. I don't remember all of them.
Of course.
Oh, come on, mine was such a special cache. You're supposed to remember.
It was special. I don't care about your cache. So,
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I don't care. Other reviewers are way better than I am. They care deeply. I'm old, I'm jaded. You know how it is.
All right.
But those pieces of information, they do matter, particularly if ownership of the property has changed. So if there's a different land manager to get in touch with, because we often get contacted by land managers who say, I found this thing, I don't want it here. And it's way better if we can look at our notes and go, okay, this was placed at this date with permission given by this person. And sometimes in the parks department, they'll go, oh, that's the previous director. Okay, that's fine. I'm sorry. And the problem goes away. So just like when we're doing the actual review, the more information your reviewer has, the more we can help you. And that information isn't just where we can see it. It's also where people from headquarters can see it. So when they get contacted from law enforcement with a land management issue, they can immediately look and go, think of yourself. Do you want to sit there and go like, yeah, I don't see any information here. We'll take care of that. Or that was placed with permission of Director Jackson on this date. When here's the contact information. Is that contact information no longer accurate? Has something changed? That lets them and lets us speak from a place of knowledge, and knowledge is power. So you can really diffuse things the more you know. Let's just the more you know, the easier everyone's job is.
Yeah.
That's super. Now, I know that I have seen you a number of times at Geo Woodstocks. You seem to like and enjoy going to Geo Woodstocks. How many Geo Woodstocks have you attended?
All but the first one.
Oh.
Wow.
Well, and here's the great thing. I helped on the first one.
You did?
Joe GPS, who started Geo Woodstock, was also a reviewer. He's TN Cash reviewer. He is the person who recruited me to be a reviewer in the first place. He was a dear, dear friend, and I'm going to try not to choke up because I will get choked up talking about Joe, always. Okay. But he took me under his wing as a geocacher. There is no way that I would have continued caching beyond a year or so if Joe hadn't made the game interesting for me. If he hadn't brought us into his family. And I had dinner with Joe's brother Thursday night. Joe and I used to have dinner. There was a whole group of us. We had dinner from 2003. We have eaten dinner together more Thursday nights than not, like nearly every Thursday night for 20 plus years. we have sat down and talked about caching, and we started out as cachers, and then we became friends, and we've become family. One of the folks I had dinner with, Sal Powell, give Sal Powell a shout out tonight. Sal Powell, I had dinner with her Thursday night. Sal Powell was the first person, not blood related to me, who walked in the room after my son was born. First person to hold him who didn't have that blood in her veins. And we have so many dear, dear friends who are like family to us now that we met through geocaching. And Joe was one of the first who like really brought us together. He was also the local reviewer. And when the time came when he was considering stepping down, he asked me to, if I would be interested in reviewing. And I was really interested. And really, really interested. And that
was before you knew what the job was all about, right?
Well, that meant that was a terrible choice because I really wanted it because I thought it would be fun. And I ended up, this may not be general knowledge, but when I was first put up for reviewership, I was turned down.
Oh.
Because I was so eager. And I would have been a poor choice for it. And after that, a year or two later, he decided he was going to retire. And he asked me again. And when he asked me the second time, I told him I really didn't think that I wanted to do that I had a lot on my plate with just geocaching. We were just working. I just hosted Geo Woodstock 7, and there was a lot going on. I'm like, I don't think that I'm the right person for that. And it turns out that in a lot of things, when you realize that you're not the right person for it, you probably are.
Yeah.
Because I was approaching it then with more respect, as a job to be done, as service to the community. Where before, if I'm honest, in my head, that was like, oh, that's another thing I can do. That'll be another geocaching feather in my hat. I'll be a reviewer, which is the wrong reason to do it.
Right.
And when I came back to it, it was absolutely in a spirit of servitude. And I consider this a service to the community, and I try to do the best I can with it. And I am very proud that he tapped me to do this. I'm very proud that I've been accepted and been brought into the community and been allowed to stay in this community for so long. But my connection with Geo Woodstock was that Joe and I were friends. And I was not reviewing at all at this time. I was just hanging out with him. He said he was putting together this event. So my wife and I helped like with some of the planning and stuff and just chat and stuff. We didn't do any real work. And we had scheduled, we'd been married a few months. We were not able to take our honeymoon when we first got married because of work things for me. So we were scheduled, our honeymoon was the same week as Geo Woodstock 1. We were in Ireland. And I asked Joe, like, should we like rework our schedule and stuff? Because like, I hate to miss your big thing. He's like, dude, it's not that big a deal. So we skipped Geo Woodstock 1 to go on our honeymoon.
Classic.
I guess you're excused in that, and your wife probably would do that too.
But I have perfect attendance ever since, and I work with the committee now, and we work to make sure that Geo Woodstock continues and that we find new hosts and move things around the country. I work heavily with Geo Woodstock every year.
Cool. But
good to know.
Where is your next public appearance? Where will we? What's your next event?
That'll be Going Caching in Rome, Georgia.
Oh, next week.
Next week. I'll be heading down there, Rome. Right. And yes, and it will be a very public appearance. It'll be hard.
Well, and I know our chat room doesn't know this, but you know that you're not looking over the chat. But I do have to say that overwhelmingly people have thanked you for your honesty. And thank you for the information that you have provided to the community. And so definitely want to pass that along to you because I do appreciate it. And then, we got to chat a little bit at Going Caching in Memphis, and it's probably too late to go into all of the fun that we had and the trouble you got into helping us out, reviewing some of those challenges that we wanted to put out.
Like I said, I'm human and I make mistakes, and I made a number of. I learned a lot about challenges, the new challenge cache, some of the new guidelines.
You're welcome.
During that, because I made a couple of big like fundamental errors, and don't worry, I heard about it quickly. But it and that was an interesting situation where I had made a mistake, and trying to figure out what is the right thing because the group shouldn't be punished for my mistake. The fellow cacher shouldn't be punished for my mistake, but I made a mistake and I couldn't continue making the same mistake.
Right.
After I was aware that I had messed up.
Sure. And we appreciate that.
Let's let people know about that, like what that issue really was, because that that gets nebulous. And that's some of the problem with some of the reviewers talking code, and we're talking in code here. So let's break it down.
Right, we are, yes. And that's because
we was things.
Yeah, I was on the back side of this. And so I was go ahead.
The thing that I missed out on, and it was a change, and the change had been since 2016. And we all know that in order to place a challenge cache, that you have to qualify for the challenge. That's been a rule for a long time now, since 2016. I did not realize that counted for like cache event owners and let's say sock puppets. That even if the person who owned the sock puppet had qualified, or if the event owners had qualified, it has to be the actual account that qualifies for the cache is the one that can be published. We're not supposed to publish caches for an event cache or an event owner or for a sock puppet unless it is actually the account that submitted the cache qualifies for the cache. It doesn't matter how many people on the team qualify. Unless the event account has gone out and qualified, it should not be published. And that was on me. I messed that up. And when halfway through the week, I had to go, oh, guys, I messed up and we can't do this anymore. I can understand the frustration that creates because,
Well, from our perspective. I mean, obviously, or not obviously, there was a team putting the caches together, and a lot of the ideas for the challenges came from me, and someone else was doing the cache pages and someone else was doing the cache placement. And it was being the event host was the placer,
which makes perfect sense because it makes it easier for people in the event to find it.
Right.
But that's where you have one of those guidelines where I understand the how and why, but here's what it says.
Correct. And we did that. And we made sure that someone on the team qualified for that cache before we even tried to publish it, because we knew that was one of the guidelines that you had to pre-qualify in order to publish it. And so we knew that. And then when it changed, it was like, we're scratching our head going, wait a minute, something changed. We don't know what changed. And I don't know whether David got a note from you or not, but I know Dee contacted you and we straightened it all out afterwards. So I greatly appreciate that. I could. Yeah, maybe Merlin could have published it. But no, you can't even do that, because if I publish the cache, it has to stay in my name, because if I adopt it to a sock puppet, the sock puppet doesn't qualify and that kicks it out.
Right.
So then
it should be archived in that case.
Yeah, it should be
on
archived.
challenge caches. Yeah.
So I want to ask another question that KC11, and I know we're running long, but I want this one more in because it is a good question, and that who decides how many reviewers for an area? Do you have any insight into that? And
I do. But I don't want to say anything that I shouldn't say.
Right.
I know that generally it's on us because we have the workload. So if in Tennessee I'm getting more and more caches and it's like the workload has just gotten to where I don't have enough time to be able to properly serve, then maybe I need someone else to come on and help. And I cannot think of an instance where we have, as reviewers, where we've said, I need more help. And HQ's been like, no, you guys are fine, work harder. Because that's not what it's about. One of our number one rules is like, you do this as long as it's fun.
Right.
That's from the top down. That's from right on down. If you're not having fun doing this, go do something else, man. We appreciate your service. Move on. We'll find space. And anytime that I've asked for help, they've been like, yeah, let's be supportive. Let's do things. So there's not really there's not like a great council that goes like, well, I think that 3 is the proper number, because you can't look at geography. It really comes down to workload. And when the workload's coming in, we have a great relationship here in Tennessee because Gil and I work on sort of opposite schedules. So like I'm doing stuff during the day. He's doing stuff over there. I have balloons.
I don't know how that happened.
It's a party. But so we have things there. If we find that we're suddenly we have had times that the reason that I started reviewing in Massachusetts is that Mad Men had a new position and that she was having difficulty being there reviewing as much as she wanted to. So she asked if I could step in for a little while. That turned into like 6 years or something. But and then we finally brought somebody else on to help alleviate some of that stress. And we've absolutely had people retire and go like, we don't have too many caches to deal with right now, so we won't replace them. We'll bring somebody on when we need them. It really is about putting together a good team. And even when we're like, if I get really strapped, we all help each other too. So you may see suddenly that a reviewer out of Alabama or a reviewer out of Arkansas is suddenly publishing caches in Tennessee. Like, we try to be really good about not stepping over our lines unless we're asked in, but we always are there to support one another. So if it's a short-term thing, like, I'll go to Massachusetts for a little bit.
Yeah, but if you felt you were overwhelmed, overworked, you would reach out to HQ and say, "Hey, I need some help," and HQ would then come back to you and say, "We agree. Do you have any suggestions?
Do you have anybody in mind?" And then we would go through.
And then
in most cases, we're going to look through and find someone that we think has the right persona.
Right, right. And then you'll take that name, put it up to HQ. HQ vets it, checks whatever they have to do, makes the formal invitation or whatever.
They vet it, and their fellow and other reviewers vet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we all that always. It is if you're joining a global team, and we want feedback from everybody around the globe. So you can find out that, like, hey, that guy's really cool. Last month I told him no on this, and he lost his stuff. And, like, and here are the emails back and forth, because, like, it's really, anyone can do this job. Anyone can learn the guidelines and apply them. That's easy. Applying them consistently, judiciously, and fairly. And, like, the more important thing is making sure that it goes beyond being fair. It's making sure that, I've lost the term. Is it judicious? Is the right way to go there? The idea that we want to make sure that everyone gets treated equally, everyone has equal opportunity, and that's the thing, that you want to apply things consistently across the board. And to be honest, a thick skin goes a long way, because it is amazing some of the things that people will say to someone they've never met on the internet, which is what it boils down to for a reviewer. And I understand that they care deeply about their cache. I clearly don't care. So they want to make sure that I'm going to care, or I'm going to know. And boy, like, I love some of the things. Like, I'm a glorified civil. I'm not even a real civil servant. You're a volunteer doing a job nobody else would take.
Yeah, if you got paid to do this, maybe you could be worth the abuse. But
precisely. And the great thing is that, and I looked at your account. You've never even found a cache. How can you tell me my cache isn't ready?
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know that. All right. Well, Brad, thank you. We are running way long tonight, but
it was a very good conversation.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, the chat is very appreciative, and again, we hear it so many times from so many. It's about the community, and like you said, serving the community, having a valuable community. When people join geocaching, they're not just joining a treasure hunt.
Yeah, it's not just an app; it's a community.
Yeah.
And
I have
the key
so
to community
around the world now.
Yeah, absolutely. And the key to having a great community is communication.
Right.
So just like we're talking here, and we're talking to all of you out there in internet land, we're going there. Like, right here, it's going one way. But, when you see me at an event, come over and talk. Let's talk about things. Whenever your reviewer sends you a note back, if you don't understand, ask a question. That's what we're here for. We are here to help you get caches published. So help me help you. Or help you help me. You know how it goes.
All right. Well, let's see how this works. It is time for our Wheel of Challenges.
Woo, our live game. That's right.
That's right.
I need to get over to the right spot for that. One live viewer each month will be selected to face off against the wheel to have a chance to win the grand prize, a 1-year membership on Project GC. We do ask that you limit yourself to 3 wins. So, to enter, get your email apps ready. Send an email with the subject containing "Spin Me," followed by your geocaching username in brackets, and answer the following question that we'll put up here on the screen. The first verified user gets to go up against the wheel, and we'll check your profile live. So here you go. Email challengetalkpodcast@gmail.com and answer this question. In what state does MonkeyBrad primarily review?
I know this one, though.
I know
this one. Yeah.
We know you know. That's why you can't play.
Yeah. All right. We're monitoring our email. Let's see who's going to answer correctly first.
All right. While you're doing that, we got another comment in from Electric Water Boy, who says he knows from personal experience. I don't know if you know Tom and but personal.
I know Tom very well.
That you're apparently a very approachable person.
My son Liam loves Tom because one of his best days ever, he had in Memphis at Cash Fest the year before because
Okay.
Tom hooked him up with a gadget cache class. And he
Ah.
still has that gadget on his headboard at home. And
Wow.
if you can impress a 13-year-old boy, you've done something. So
Yes, he has. Yep.
yeah, Tom is a gentleman. I love him.
All right. And we
How we
do
doing?
have our first correct answer. So TWH Ryder has answered correctly. Tennessee is the primary state. Am I correct, Brad? Okay, good.
Yes.
I didn't
yes,
want to
the-
be like, I didn't want to be jet lagged and
double check
answering
that.
questions wrong.
I'm not going to see Rocky
All
Top.
right.
All right. So
Good.
we've got the wheel. Let's see. I can't click on the
Let's
screen
spin
to win
that.
it. I got to click over here to get it. Let's see what we're gonna get. What are we gonna get? What are we gonna get? Easy one. Easy one. A
Difficulty
piece of
2.5.
pie challenge.
All right.
All
Let's
right.
see what that challenge is about.
So this is a Pi Day challenge. You need to find, it's a several consecutive days. First day, find 3. Second day, find 1. Third day, find 4. And then go out 7 whole days.
Okay. So like
So let's
pie.
yeah, like pie.
Right.
Build pie. Take my name out, put in TWH Writer. And here's that failed to
We have an
execute.
error, a script error.
We have an error in the
Well, we haven't seen
script.
that before.
I know.
Let's
Well, and
try
that usually
again.
means there's something wrong in the name. And there it is. She put it in capitals. Okay, so qualification to the chat room. You got to type it in as you type it. There we go. Oh, and she's
no,
not.
doesn't qualify.
She's got 31415. And I
she
don't
said
remember
in the
what it
chat,
was.
I am terrible at consecutive days.
Okay.
Oh, well,
Bummer.
still, thank you for playing. We're glad that you guys are here playing live with us. That's a part of our show. So win or lose, we're glad you're here for that.
All right.
And
And
then we'll
normally,
just hit up a few of, go ahead.
well, I was going to say, normally we go through some of the monthly challenges, but we've run so long. I guess I would like to say that, the folks that submitted challenges this month, thank you very much. Bloody Cool, Seebeck Tribe, Starcasher, Acorn Mama, Zipper Tiff, and the GBs. They all had some great months.
We always have your submissions that we read on air in the show notes. So that's a good point. We are going a little long, so you can go to our show notes and read all of these submissions. What I think I'll do real quick is just say who our winner is and what they submitted. So congratulations. This month's winner is Seaback Tribe. And Lori submitted GC2M34K, the Color of Cash Challenge in Washington. You need to find 10 caches with a color in the title. And all caches need to be in Washington, found after 1/1/11. So lots of pre-moratorium requirements in this one, but still fun to, when we encounter those caches. I think a lot of us still enjoy doing them. So thanks, Lori.
Yeah, I think some of the pre-moratorium were really fun. And I think, I guess my personal perspective is, HQ has sucked out some of the fun, but they've also made it easier to see if you qualify. You don't have to go do all the bookkeeping. You don't have to do this. And I'm sure from the reviewer perspective, it's better. I can see this one creating a lot of controversy because the color has to be in the name of the cache title. Well, I found the Bluebird House cache. The color blue is in there, but that doesn't qualify.
But not as a compound word,
not
according
just-
to this
yeah,
cache owner.
According to this cache.
But in 2 years from now, the Bluebirds have moved out and there's a Cardinal. So now I'm going to change the cache name to the Redbird cache.
Oh, right.
And
Yes,
maybe
there we go.
Because someone else changed something on it.
That's right.
You guys remember, I remember that the pre-moratorium stuff where I would go out and have a great caching trip and then I would come home and literally feel like I had to do homework. I don't know how many challenges I had that I was like, you know what? I am not going to sit here and find 25 GeoPets trackable tags that I have logged and document that. The fine's not worth it to me.
Right.
Like it felt like homework sometimes.
Right.
And that's
Right.
and that's one of the cool things. Like I thought it was funny that both of these have popped up have been pre-moratorium.
Right.
The thing that we always have to remember, like, because I'm like, tomorrow somebody's going to come in and submit this in Tennessee, like, hey, here's I want to do that cool pie thing that was in the thing. I'm like, yeah, well, here's why we can't do that now.
Can't do
Cool.
it.
I love that they grandfathered stuff and that we didn't lose those things, but there's a reason why. And there was a lot of thought that went into the new guidelines, and it does make it easier for us to get more challenges published, and we don't have to do homework. And I hate homework. I said we had a local hider that I thought that like their whole point was to like, how much work can we make the hider do to verify their thing?
Yeah. There was a cache that I had to the same thing. I submitted and said, I know I qualify. I can't prove it. If you question me, fine. Delete my log. It's good. So, all right. So I guess bottom line, don't be afraid to place a cache. Work with your reviewer. They are really nice people too. Well, okay.
My camera's reversed, so I keep messing up my hand. Most of them are all right. No,
most. There's a couple out there that are not, but we won't go into their names.
That guy in Tennessee is the worst, but most of the rest of them are great.
All right. Good to know. Good to know. All right. And just remember, everyone, with our change in schedule, the next show is the second Tuesday of November, November 14th. And show notes will be posted shortly after the show airs in our video description in YouTube and your podcast player. So you can catch up with things we talked about and see those submissions from our community this month.
And we want to thank you all for watching, listening, commenting in the chat, being a patron of the show. This month's quote comes from professional basketball player and coach Becky Hammond. Says that I'm up for challenges. I'm up for being outside the box, making tough decisions and challenges. And I'm a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. So remember, it's not about the numbers. It's really about the challenge.
Challenge accepted. Thanks, everyone.
Everybody. Thank you, Brad.
Good night.
Thank you for having me.
Hang out.